co-founders of Apple Computer, but we also have people like Vint Cerf. He's the father of internet. He works now for Google. And then we also have another person down in San Diego by the name Marty Cooper. He's the inventor of the first cell phone that looks like a brick. Back 30 years ago. So there's a lot of luminary members, and we can always utilize that network to help some of the younger entrepreneurs to get started or to get advice from these people. So the program involved is a monthly webinar once a month, and we're still in the process of formulating a mentor-mentee matching program so that we can leverage some of these experienced people from the IEEE membership as well as for the industry. And usually every year we have a startup competition in partnership with one of the startup accelerators. We partner with the largest accelerator in Silicon Valley is called Plug and Play so we're still in the process of formulating because the COVID-19, and usually it's an in-person pitch event, a half-day pitch event, and because of the COVID-19, we're still in discussion how we're going to plan out maybe doing a virtual one this year. And here are the team members who volunteer to help organize, find speakers, and if you're interested to help or to participate, please send me an email, and we're always looking for additional help. So I learned now, shown this slide, and when you are on, if you have a smartphone and you're now watching this on your computer, then you can just quickly scan these QR codes and you can get to the website, and we post all our recordings of past webinars on our website. And if you're the first time, you haven't joined our mailing list, you can also scan the bottom QR code, and then you can join the mailing list so you can get notification of the next event, or when we usually, there's a few days, I would say give us 2 to 3 days time to upload the recording onto the website after the event. So as a public service to IEEE, we have IEEE President-elect for 2022. Here are the 4 candidates, and if you're an IEEE member, you probably have already received the email from IEEE about voting for one of these to be the president-elect for 2022. And that's it. All right, so I'll go over very quickly another slide presentation. Let's see.
Just to let you know, we're live streaming on YouTube as well. So if anyone has connection issues, a link has also been sent. Hopefully we all stay connected here nicely.
Okay. All right, so a little bit more about the young professionals. The qualification to be a young professional member is that you are within 15 years of your graduation from your university program. So if you're a PhD student, you just graduated, so you might spend 8 years on your PhD degrees. So it could be people not just really, really young, but maybe now people who are a little bit more older still belong to the young professionals. And the chairman for this year's chairman for the young professional group is Selvin Raju. Unfortunately, he has a meeting conflict and not able to join, so I'll go over his slides with you. So this I already touched upon regarding IEEE itself. And then, so as I mentioned, it's usually the qualification is 15 years graduating from your university program. And mainly it's a networking group. So they have a lot of happy hours when we had the, before the pandemic. Here are some pictures of the events. Hiking, that's another very popular event with people, because typically when IEEE has the technical meeting, it's usually like this type of technical talk, so members don't get a lot to socialize. So Young Professional will encourage people to socialize, and this is another networking event. In the top, this is actually the balcony of Plug and Play, where we finished the startup pitch event, and we have people gathering afterwards. And but they also the Young Professional also have their own technical panel and discussion group as well. Also professional development event. So there's an event coming up called Rising Stars. It's in January, and normally it's in Las Vegas. I think this year is still going to be virtual. So it's a very popular event, and you can just Google IEEE Rising Star if you're interested in joining. More social events and tree planting event. And I think that's it. Oh, startup pitch event. Oops. Let me go back up. So again, you see, this is the one actually for that we held at the IEEE Women in Engineering International Leadership Conference, with over 1,500 people attending the whole conference, but not this pitch event, but we held a pitch event. And it was unique because one of the requirements for a startup to be able to pitch is that one of the co-founders has to be a female. And this is, again, you can see the Plug and Play logo. We have 2 events being held at the Plug and Play. I think this event is focusing on industry. We usually have a theme. This event, I think, is Industry 4.0, and the other event at Plug and Play is focused on the energy segment of the market. And here are the social media contacts that if you're interested in following Young Professionals. Okay, so I think that's all the presentation I have. And without further ado, I would like to just give a very brief introduction for Prem Taraja. It's a friend of mine. We met through networking, and Prem actually has 2 area of expertise. He actually has 2 companies, one focusing on financials and one focusing on marketing. And today he's going to give us some of his insights regarding how his company helped some of the company to acquire customer, eventually got the company, because they were successful in getting revenue from customer. And some of the companies actually they were acquired by bigger companies and have successful outcomes. And I'm sure Prem is going to give you a more detail of his background through his presentation. So at this point, I'd like to pass the baton to Prem. Please start your presentation. Thank you. Thank you for coming and volunteering your time to this event.
Thank you, Joseph. And Rio, I really appreciate this opportunity and the time and the introduction you've already provided. I will not say much more. I'll spend the time on high technology marketing and sales, but as Joseph said, I do have years of experience, and that's consolidated into 2 businesses that I do. Some people ask me, why do you do 2 things? And it's partly because I can. I'm at the stage of my life that I can, but they're both towards helping entrepreneurs and startups. And I just couldn't resist the temptation of providing marketing solutions, as well as at some point in the journey, there is financial services required. And what I mean by that is fundraising, both from the venture capital side as well as non-dilutive funding that comes along later. But anyway, I'm not going to plug more about this. You can always reach me and we can talk about that. So I do want to thank a number of people who have helped me put together this information. Of course, I have years of experience, both academic and professional, in these areas. But in my journey, I have had mentors who have guided me. I have venture capitalists who have helped me or worked with me. I have certainly had people that I worked for that guided me. So the reason I say that is this is accumulation of a lot of things, and I probably will be plagiarizing and quoting them at some points. So I want to say thanks to all of my mentors in my journey in life. And a lot of the things that I will talk about marketing here and sales, these are public information, so you can always read on the internet about these things in detail. But issue that I'm trying to address today is succinctly, in the short time available, give you the lexicon of terminology in marketing and sales as it applies to your high-tech business. And then so that you are familiar with the terminology, you get a sense that this is serious matter when it comes to success of your company, and that these terms will become familiar to you. And if they don't, I'm there to help you further in the future, or you can certainly read about them. But there'll be a certain amount of repetition in what I say, but it's purposely done so that you can understand that this is a process that repeats over and over again. So it's a vocabulary that will get set in your mind, hopefully by the end of this thing. I have several slides, and there'll be plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So let me move through, and at some points I might skip slides if I feel that I'm not making good progress of time, but it's 12:30 right now, 12:25. Okay, all right. So this meeting is about high-tech companies, marketing, sales, customer acquisition, customer retention. And ultimately, at the end, I will tell you what success looks like. So stay tuned and stick around if you can. But grab your cup of coffee and lean in. Don't sit back, lean in. Let me talk about high-tech, the industry. What I mean by the industry is there are many industries out there, which is agricultural industry, transportation industry, pharmaceutical industry. There are many industries. These industries have certain set characteristics, classifications that define the industry, and the competitors within that industry compete with each other, whether they are highly profitable or less profitable, but they are airline industries. They are, for example, you can't compare them with high-tech industry. But what is so unique about high-tech industry, which is what we are all part of, is that we're dealing with cutting-edge tools and knowledge that folks like you bring using science and engineering to solve problems for corporations and for individual people, okay? And you come up with these great ideas. And the technologies that you use keep changing over time. If you look at a span of 20, 30 years, high tech has changed. But it keeps changing, and that in itself is a problem. Today's buzzwords are AI, ML, blockchain, IoT, and such, EdTech, FinTech. But we don't know 5 years later what's going to be the technology in fashion. But that in itself is a problem, because you are dealing with a lot of change and ambiguity in this market. And you're also leveraging today, in software companies particularly, you're leveraging a lot of open source technologies. That means not only can you do it, but others can do it too. So there's a lot of uncertainty, ambiguity, and change in this industry, more so than other industries. So even the customers are often confused, because they can't keep up with all the changes, and they try to make do with what they have, but somehow you have to grab their attention and reach them. So that's the characteristics of the high-tech industry. And put it another way, the environment is that there's a lot of ambiguity, uncertainty, and volatility in this market. There's a market uncertainty because things change rapidly, products come and go rapidly. There's technology uncertainty because there can be something new coming around the corner that blindsides you. And obviously there's a competitive volatility. Believe me, if you are doing something, there are at least 5 or 6 more people thinking of something similar to what you're doing. So in the middle of all that is your great idea and your vision of bringing a product and innovating it to the market. But there is a fact that there is this ambiguity, volatility, and change that is unique to the high-tech environment, more so than others. And I've seen this and endured this for the last 35 years of my career. So, believe me, you have to adapt to change. And it's like a 3-legged stool, as you can just see, that technology alone will not succeed. You need marketing, you need sales, you need a number of things in the 3-legged stool to make this successful endeavor at the end of the day. So we'll talk about that really. So I'm just moving along here, but from your point of view, a high-tech startup, right? Look, it's difficult. I'm not going to kid about this, and to be listening in this seminar or conference or this session here, but know that many entrepreneurs have ideas and dreams, but that's not enough. Very few of those actually take the leap to start a company and try to realize that product that they have in their mind. And so that in itself is a very big leap you're taking, and congratulations to you. And I don't think it should be seen as a scary leap, because it's based on your belief in your ability to do this. But unfortunately, less than 10% of such startups succeed. That's really discouraging, right? And yet there are companies that succeed. And even, after you get funded, 20 to 30% of those companies will also fail at some point. And failure could be defined as early exit, got acquired, or had to shut down. So it's not fail, but it could be a number of outcomes that may not be as good as what you had in your dream. But, this is not about luck. People attribute this success to luck. Yes, you have to be lucky. Of course, certain things have to happen. The economy has to stay strong. The technology has to be there. The customers' demand should be there. But there are ways to mitigate failure or improve success. And that is that how do you get repeated luck is when you understand the market, you plan properly, and you execute. Sounds very simple, but I've seen over the many years how some companies fall off the track or get channeled into a certain direction, and they get married to a particular idea rather than the idea of success, okay? They get very tightly linked to that idea. So you have to remain customer oriented. You have to cut through the noise to get to those customers, but understand, plan, and executing is very important. And it's not a single department's function, the whole company. And often the people like marketing and sales who don't write a line of code, who don't design a product, are actually responsible for bringing that knowledge to the company. Because what do they do after all? They help you to understand, plan, and execute. So don't underestimate the role of marketing and sales in this journey. So the thesis of this, what I just said, was that failure is sometimes inevitable, but don't fail because of execution flaws, okay? Do your best and do the right things, and results will happen. And that's what I can tell you why the statistics work the way they do. But many of the failures that I've seen have great technology that fails because of poor marketing. Poor technology fails no matter how well you try to market it. Luck comes into play. You get things like too big a vision that you cannot execute because the funds run out. Or you have the other side, you have too small a vision and your competitors come in and take you out of the business. So these are the kind of things that can happen, but execute and improve your chances of success, okay? And that comes down to the team you build, the minimum viable product you make, how good a product market fit you can have. And now I'm starting to throw in some vocabulary, which I will define more, but you can see that these are not fluffy terms. They are actual tasks and things that companies have to do in order to succeed and increase their probability of success. This is a very interesting article in Harvard Business Review, and I will go through it very quickly because but I urge you to download it. It's called Screen for Success. Is it real? Can we win? Is it worth doing? And it's a very good article written several years ago, taught in business schools as well. But screening for success is very important before you launch in or even in the midst of your journey. Keep screening for success. What we are doing, is it real? Can we win? And is it worth doing? Okay. And so quickly going through it, screen for success. Is it real? Is the market real? Is the product real? Meaning, is there a real need for it? And if there is a clear need, is there a product that can be defined to solve that need? Can we win? Can our product be competitive? Can our company or startup be competitive in this business? You have to ask that question. And there are some additional questions that follow, and that article will tell you a lot more about that. And is it worth doing? After all, you're investing a lot of your time in your life. Investors are going to come in, and they're going to also ask these same questions, which is, will the product, even if you build it, be profitable at the acceptable risk that we are going to take, you are going to take in bringing the product to the market? And does launching the product make even strategic sense? So what that means is, if you're in a big company and you're doing an intrapreneurial activity, then that also question comes up. The reason this article is important, Screen for Success, is that it gives you a sense of what the venture capitalists are also going to ask you. They may not ask you in this way, but this is what's in the back of their mind when they're asking you this question. Well, tell me if the product will be successful. How will you do it? Are you capable of doing it? Or your presentation will try to address those questions and anticipate the question and address them in the fundraising, because that's how they think. And they're not geniuses. They have also gone through these same articles, but they have crystallized their thinking around that. So be aware that this is what the VCs think. This is how you should think, and this is how you should be able to address the situation on hand, whether it is the execution of your company or talking to venture capitalists as well, which is a necessary path you have to go through. But the point is, when you ask these questions, then you can have three answers: yes, maybe, no, to each of these questions or the sub-questions that the article tells you about. Well, you can list them and say, okay, there are 15 questions here, and we got 5 yes. If you get 10 yeses and 3 maybes, then you've done a good job of screening for success. But on the other hand, if you get lots of no's, then you have to question, are we going to do it or not? And even then, don't give up. Figure out how to turn the maybes and no's into yeses before you embark on the journey. Okay, that is something you're going to have to do, because you're not going to get 100% yeses, but the maybes and no's are actually very valuable information to you. And where you can crack the code on that is where you will become very strong as a company that's worthy of funding, and that will eventually execute very well. So screen for success. And yes, entrepreneurship is very hard work. Don't embark on this if you don't have the fortitude for it. Believe me, there are so many things that can derail you as an entrepreneur if you have inability to deal with ambiguity, if you cannot deal with uncertainty, if you cannot deal with challenges of funding and where is the money going and running out of money before the new tranche of money comes in. One day you have a customer, the other day the customer turns away. So all of this is hard work, and there's a lot of ambiguity. So embark on this when your personal resources, financial, your personal life is in stable situation. Otherwise, you're going to create a lot of additional uncertainty in your life, which I don't wish it on anybody, but in entrepreneurship, that can be life-threatening or health-threatening for sure. And I've seen entrepreneurs crack when that happens. But it's hard work because you have to generate an idea from ground zero. Nobody knows about it. You have to build a team to convince them to do this product. You have to make a POC even just to show something, working slides and things like that, click through slides and all that. You have to validate that with customers to say, if we build it, is this right? What pain points are we addressing? Are they right? Build a minimum viable product in the constraints of the money available. Get some early customer success, get product market fit, which I'll talk about, and then build additional team members, revenue models, sales and marketing, fundraising, building mentors and advisors, because you can't do it alone. This is hard work. And as Stephen Jobs says, it's a lot about perseverance, okay? Because you can be ambitious, but persistence is the vehicle to complete the job and arrive there. I have to thank one of my good friends who's a VC, BB Jagdish, who shared this slide with me, but it's fairly common, but I like the slide because there is this growth phase, a phase the company goes through, but the initial phase, the up and down is where there's a drunken walk. One day you're up, one day you're down, up, down, up, down, up, down, till you arrive at a product that fits the market. And then you launch your company, and then you determine whether you get success based on what happens. But that drunken walk phase is the early stage startup. And it can break companies, it can make companies, it can build, steal up companies if they can cross through that drunken phase. And you've also seen this kind of a chart that talks about crossing the chasm, innovators dilemma, and early adopters, and you see that bowling alley, that's where a lot of companies end up failing and sitting as bowling pins that have been crashed because they did all that work, but somehow something happened and they could not hit the tornado of growth. So if you lay this on top of the other, you can see that drunken walk phase is likely what a lot of you early stage startups are going through or entrepreneurs are going through, but you have steps to take to overcome, and that's where the probability of success goes up over time, okay? So please know that it is hard, but it can be done. And when it is done, it is just brilliant, okay? So your company is going to go through a lot of phases initially, okay? You have the vision, the ideation, you build a team, build a proof of concept, validation with customers. And when I say validation, you're just talking to customers. You haven't built anything. You just shown them some slide deck, a handful of customers that you have handpicked. They're your well-known past contacts who are willing to give you time. And then you build an unqualified sort of minimum viable product that you can deliver to them. They can install it and play with it and so on and so forth. That will validate the idea with these sort of set of customers. From that, there'll be refinements of the MVP very quickly, though, I might say. And then you'll be able to even sell that MVP, or at least know it can be sold, and it could be repeatedly sold to a few customers. Whether you sell or not is a different matter. But at that point, you'll have enough feedback from the market and the customers that you will have achieved a product market fit. Meaning now you understand various segments, various markets, and how to position the features in the various markets. You can launch a company based on that product market fit when it's executed. You can attract customers, you can build revenue, and then you can retain these customers and attract more customers. And this is the kind of stuff where VCs will be also looking at carefully when they fund you at the early stage or later stages. And as you can see, there's a lot of SWOT analysis, which I'll talk about: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and segmentation, targeting, and positioning. And now it might sound like fluffy word. Oh, what's your segmentation? What's your targeting? What's your position? No, it's not fluffy. It is very serious work. And often a technologist may underestimate that, but combined with a marketing person, that is important work. And again, I say this to you because the VCs will ask you this question. And part of your success is being able to raise money, right? And however the words are used, they will ask you this question. They may not ask you like business school 101, but this is what they're looking for. Does this team understand their target customer? Why? How are they going to sell to that customer to pierce through all that noise in the marketplace? So you are thinking about opportunity, no question. Opportunity is what's driving you, but don't be blindsided by the fact that there are weaknesses in your company and there are strengths and there are external threats as well. So SWOT analysis is used a lot as a term, but the point here is think opportunity for sure, but think about, it's almost like screening for success. Should we do it, but do we have the strength to do it? And if we don't have certain strength, where are our gaps that we can shore up? That's your weaknesses. So strengths and weaknesses are your internal things that you can do. You have strengths and you have weaknesses. You can shore up your weaknesses, you can capitalize on your strengths. And you can't, that's easier for you to notice, and you can't lie to yourself that we have a gap in this. We need to hire a particular type of engineer that we don't have. Or we need to have a certain channel partner that we don't have. That kind of thing. So strength and weaknesses are internal. Opportunities is what you're going after, and you're going to get investment. You'll invest your resources, yours and other people's resources, to capitalize on that opportunity. But there are external threats that you can't control all of them. Threats of your competition, threats of economy, threats of technology changing, all those itties that I mentioned about, that can happen to derail your company. But it's important to identify them and to continue to monitor them from time to time. So this is not a one-time analysis. You can do it once in 6 months, not every day, but you have to have a sense of SWOT thinking in your opportunity thinking, okay? And a lot of times you get blindsided if you don't do that. And I say here, avoid swag, because if you don't do SWOT, then swag is simply a wild ass guess. And that'll catch you. VCs will also figure out, oh, you're just guessing. You don't have the basis for that. And they're smart. They'll go ask other people. They'll even tell you, oh, aren't you like this? Aren't you like this? But you don't have that. You don't have that. So you want to be prepared for that questions, not only for money raising, I keep bringing that up, but to execute as well. So what can you do to improve your success probability? I think I sort of touched on that earlier, but I think is that, I mentioned this, that 3 things really stand out to me a lot. I'm not talking about the money part, but success probabilities, the executive team, minimum viable product, and product market fit. Okay. And that is that the team has to have the ability to deal with ambiguity and uncertainty and overcome them, not get shaken by that. If you feel that you're not ready for that, then get advice, fill up those gaps in your team. People who have spent lots of years in large corporate work may not be as entrepreneurial. They may have experience, but experience in an entrepreneurial environment in a big company is very useful. Prior entrepreneurial experience is very useful. And ultimately, as a team, you have scarce resources, human and capital, and you have to deploy them very skillfully and reduce missteps, because that time and money is irrecoverable. Okay, so there'll be a lot of times you'll have to say no. There'll be a lot of times you have to arbitrate on what should we do now. Yes, we have 10 things we have to do, but only 3 things we can fund. There are 20 features we'd like to bring into the product, but these 5 are the most important. And that's what product management will tell you. And you all have to agree and do it and not solve problems that people don't want to pay for. Okay. Minimum viable product will tell you a lot about what you started with, thinking of the problem, and where you end up, because customers will tell you a lot more, or potential customers, and listen to them very carefully, because they are helping you cut through a lot of deliberation, and they'll save you time and money. And ultimately, it'll give you a path to revenue. And the product market fit, which is follows after minimum viable product is done, is that it refines clearly what are the pain points that you're trying to solve and how you're going to solve them, what features will solve those pain points. And you'll be surprised how different that may be from where you started. You may think you were solving certain pain points, but the minimum viable product proved to you that pain points are entirely different, or certain customers have different pains than others. And now the question is, do we address all customers, or which customers do we first address? We can't ignore all of the markets, but you have to segment that, target that, and position for that particular point of entry. And ultimately, will the customers pay for it? How will they pay for it? And can you secure repeatable sales? This will increase the probability of success, or reduce the probability, or increase the probability. And if you don't do it, increase the probability of failure, right? And technology superiority is not enough, unfortunately. And I'm talking to technologists, but believe me, also marketing competence is required to make things successful. Not the best products win in the market. It's how well they are marketed that they win. And why I show this elk here is I was in Yellowstone and I was looking at these elks, and somebody told me, do you know these elks grow these horns every couple of years? And this is marketing. The elk is growing horns to market himself to the female elks, to attract them. And if you see out there in the Yellowstone, you'll see one elk with 20 females around him and another with only 5. So they're growing these horns. They're marketing themselves. And mind you, they're changing their horns every 2 years. So everything in life is actually marketing. Your resume is marketing. Your LinkedIn profile is marketing. Everything is actually marketing. And I'm not bragging about it. It is the way it is. Okay. When you date somebody, it's marketing. So that's what's going on, that the two are required together in high-tech industry, right? And before we go any further, obviously the question comes up, what kind of company are you creating? A B2B, which is an enterprise company, or a B2C, which is a consumer company? There are similarities and differences. They're both high-tech in the industry, but in the B2B, you're probably solving a problem for a corporation and a government. You're reaching customers by direct sales or channel sales, and your revenue models are going to be a subscription like Salesforce, licensing like Oracle, services, appliance sales like Cisco and Juniper. And many companies are going towards the licensing model in this because it's sexy. It is seen by even the stock market as a measurable criteria of renewable revenue, churns, things of that nature. So it's going to impact what kind of marketing and sales team you're going to have. And your B2C, you're solving a problem for a end user. You reach those customers through digital marketing, direct advertisement, or through B2B2C like Walmart and Amazon and people like that. Your revenue model could be you start out free, you add features, you charge for the features, there's some subscription, and even hardware vendors, like in example of Peloton, have turned it into a subscription recurring revenue model, even in the B2C case, because they see that the value is there. But fundamentally, I'm only sharing this to point out that, yes, there are differences, and be aware where you fit. ultimately, I've been bragging about marketing. Hopefully, I've been pitching about the need for marketing. And, what I want to say is that role of marketing is key. Not only marketing is required, but they give you they don't write a line of code. Let's put it that way. They don't ship a product. They don't take a purchase order. What the heck do they do then? Well, they get deep knowledge of the customers and competitors. They do the segmentation, targeting, and positioning strategies for you. They create a template for internal and external communications. They create a strategy for how customers will be acquired, what tools you will use, CRM, whatever, all the communications that you'll do. They create partnerships and collaborations to get to the market. They create content to reach those customers and content for sales and for the partners. So they don't do selling, but they create content. They drive digital marketing as a lever, and they develop the brand, which over time becomes the value in the company. And it is not a singular role. It's not a department that needs hundreds of people. It can grow to that eventually, but it's a very collaborative and cross-functional role. And the marketing person you hire have to be very seasoned and senior and not weak. They have to be opinionated and capable of doing all this stuff. You just don't fill a position of that importance by hiring somebody and say, oh, he's our marketing manager. You have to find the right person. Within marketing is a role called product management. Eventually, product management, in the past, it used to be called product marketing, but it has moved closer to engineering, that in some larger companies, product management moves into almost comes under the CTO or VP of engineering. Okay, but it is product management. And it's a very, very, very critical position in a startup company, which is why your first marketing person would have to be a product manager as well, and may move to take product management eventually. But product management defines what product the company should build based on the research that's been done, defines the segment and the target, maps the key features per the target customer segment. So you have a plethora of features, you have a plethora of customers. Now you figure out these features here, these features there. You prioritize which is first, which is second, which segment comes first, which segment comes second, or you do multiple segments, but not all, okay? Because your resources don't allow that. And you work very, very closely with engineering to commit the features, plan, and the delivery schedule for that product. Believe me, that is a very contentious role between engineering and product management. It's not trivial. And many of you in engineering know that difficulty. They both come at it from the same ambition of being successful, but there's an arbitration that has to happen. What gives? Engineers want more time, and product management wants more features on time. And that arbitration has to happen in a certain way. And somebody has to agree. They have to ultimately agree. Okay? So schedule management is very important because schedule is not negotiable. If something is going to be launched to the consumer in Christmas, you cannot miss Christmas. You cannot reschedule Christmas. If something has to be launched at a certain trade show in the industry, you cannot, you want to be a Salesforce partner and you got a product coming out of Salesforce. Well, you cannot miss the Salesforce conference. So time is not negotiable. Features may be negotiable, okay? And the traditional 4 Ps of market, the product features, the pricing, the models, the place, the distribution model, and the promotion. So, that's part of product management. But I don't want to dwell on that subject, but 4 Ps is a marketing terminology. But ultimately, product management's job is to focus the entire company on the delivery of the value to the customer. So without sounding wrong and arrogant about it, a good product management executive almost thinks the whole damn company works for him or her. They have nobody reporting to them, but they think the whole company is basically answerable to this fact that why are we doing this if it is not of value to the customer? Or this is the value of the customer. And they're willing to stick their neck out and explain why. So very important role. Minimum viable product, I think I touched on this enough, but it's an iterative process. It's taken based on inputs from the customer, because these are not even customers. They are friends of yours who are willing to give you inputs and help you identify use cases and prioritize them for you. There's a constant interface. So you have to be willing to interface with them. And there's feedback going on. Don't waste their time, or don't find such early customers who don't have time for you, and develop under severe time and budget constraints for you and for the customer as well. And get the commitment from the customer that, will you help us? Will you take the time to try our product? And if the answer is no, then don't build an MVP for them, because it's doing you no good if you're every day calling them saying, I see you haven't even logged on. I see you haven't even logged on. It's not going to help you. And yes, it could and should generate revenue, but it's a questionable whether you want to charge them for something that is half-baked. Okay? But if it's fully baked, by all means, charge them, but only if it has value to them. So these customers for the MVP, these are your personal hand-picked contacts coming from the executive team, people's Rolodex, people who know these people. Okay? So they are trusted individuals. They're not going to sign an NDA, but they're not going to reveal your ideas to anybody. They're not going to compete with you. Okay? They're interested in your success because they believe that you've got an aha problem that you're trying to solve, and they've admitted that the problem exists. So they're doing you a huge favor. Don't underestimate that favor they're doing to you by even spending the time. And the time and resources is an investment in your company. Imagine if you can get a VP of engineering or a CTO at your target customer spend an hour with you, that's worth $1,000. If they get 5 people into that meeting, that's $10,000 worth of time that the company has spent on you. Why would they do it? Because they know you, because they trust you. So when you go back to VCs and say, we have done an MVP with the following 5 customers, indirectly what you're saying is, we have received the equivalent of $50,000 worth of investment in refining our product, or $100,000 worth of investment. Non-trivial. That's what is non-dilutive funding in a way at the early stage. You can't buy these contacts, but they are invaluable to you. And they will test your product. That means they're going to deploy some engineering resources. So be prepared to get pushback, be prepared to get their commitment, be prepared to be very responsive to them, and don't overindulge in this if you don't have the resources. And they may become your references in the future if they are happy with their end result, or if the product fits their need. But they can become references saying, yep, I didn't buy it, or I'm not going to buy it, but this is a good problem. That's what you're looking out of an MVP outcome of a customer, because they are testimonials for you to the VCs. And they may become customers because things happen. That particular team leaves the company. That VP says, look, I can help you. I got people to test it, but I can't change the mind of my rest of the people. You have to do it. I'm not going to sound like I'm biased, or the end product doesn't actually do what they had in mind, but they helped you, right? So if they do become your customer, you'll give them favored pricing, but you can't buy their business if it doesn't fit their need, even though they helped you build it. So the product market fit is, after MVP trials and understanding the pain points and all that, you clearly identify what you want to do. You prioritize the features, you figure out the timeline with engineering, and if all of this comes together, the first shippable customer product comes to fruition, and you can now launch your company on that. That means there's an event, there's a buzz around it, whether it's a soft launch, hard launch, these are words that are used, but now you have something substantial to talk about, and you have a clear positioning that now helps drive your website and your digital content, because now you're able to brag and educate the people. You have pricing models, sales channels all figured out. And when you have the sales channel figured out, it influences what type of sales team you're going to hire. Is it direct sales? Is it partnership? All of these things will become important. So while sales executive may be getting hired at this time, but how you expand the sales team will also become a factor. And positioning, it sounds like easier. What's your positioning? What's your positioning? Well, your opening paragraph in LinkedIn is your positioning. Elevator pitch, these words get used, right? But the idea behind positioning is simply that you're trying to create an identity in the mind of the customer, right? You're trying, and you're trying to pierce through a lot of noise in a very short period of time, okay? Because people don't have large attention spans, there's a lot of noise. That's why they call it elevator pitch. But the idea is to create an identity in the mind of the target customer, saying, aha, I got it. Yes, I'm interested to talk more about it. So it's easy to understand and overcome any objections or noise in the market. That's the objective. And it doesn't mean it has to be a jingle or a one line. Ultimately, it does become that way, but it doesn't have to be that way. It can be a paragraph, but something that is succinct and clear, right? It doesn't have to become jingle like a good neighbor. Well, everybody knows what that answer is, but it doesn't have to get to that stage yet. It'd be nice, but it serves as a template for all communication activities. Why are we doing this? Because our positioning says this. Why are we going to this trade show? Because our positioning expects that kind of thing. Why are we writing this on the website? Because of our positioning. Or when in doubt, go back to positioning. And if positioning is wrong, then go fix the positioning. Don't blame positioning for, don't stick to one positioning if it is not right, but don't change it every month, but stick to it for a while. So that brings everybody on the same page. And I say this jokingly, but from the CEO to the janitor, they should all be able to describe in one sentence, what does this company do? Shipping, receiving, accounting, finance, everybody should know what are we doing and why are we doing it. They're not all in sales, but they are in sales one way or the other, okay? So if you don't position well, then your competitors will position you, because God forbid, or when they find out that you're succeeding, they will poo-poo you by saying, you're one of those. Oh, you're like the blah, blah, blah of the industry. And they'll diminish the positioning of your company. And worst is customers can also position you saying, yeah, but what's the difference between you and this? What that means is they have got friction in their mind saying, why do I bother? I already have a solution like this. So positioning is a way to pierce through all that crap and be able to answer that question. No, maybe I made a mistake. I didn't explain to you, but we are not that. And competitors also should be on guard saying, oh man, this positioning is so solid that we don't have anything to respond with, and we will have to copy it, and we'll have to say something similar to the market, And you can positively influence the market and the outcomes of your company by positioning carefully and creating a perception in the minds of the customer. And it is not hokey. It has to be authentic, okay? So, but it is important. And then there is a result issue, what people use the term that sustainable competitive advantage. Why is that important, okay? Well, the point is, initially it may not be, but everything you do should be built towards a competitive advantage, for a reason to create a differential competitive advantage. All these terms get used. But the point is ultimately, if you are a Me Too product, there's no advantage, then why bother to buy it, or why bother to do it? But if you have, some way to be superior in some areas, value to the customers, superior to your competitor, then it's a start. And sustainable means you are way ahead of your competitors. You have features that they don't even know, but those features are coming from customers that have told you what they need. That's sustainable, okay? And that comes much later, but it is magical when that happens. Now we're going to shift into attracting and retaining customers. But the point of that is, you find them or they find you. Initially, yes, the MVP trials help you find customers. Your personal contacts will help you find customers. And then you'll go into direct selling, email campaigns, banner ads, webinars, and so on and so forth. It's a predictable model of getting customers. It's very expensive, though. I'm not saying don't do it. You have to do both. They find you is a method by which digital marketing comes into play. You get organic search, you get paid search, you get social media. You are louder in that space, and you build communities, you build thought leadership. So it's a little slower. There's a warm-up time, but if done right, your marketing team can light a fire under your lead generation program. We all talk about sales pipelines and things like that. CRM tools can show you that. But the customer's journey is on the left side. They need to be made aware of this product somehow, digitally or one way or the other. They discover this product, they evaluate their options, they try to validate, try it, then they purchase, and they eventually become repeat buyers or strategic customers. And at the same time, your journey on the company side is figure out a way to attract these customers, making them aware of this product, convert these customers into willing to evaluate, explain, propose, close the deal with them, get their first purchase order, first installation, get them to grow with you with repeat purchases, build trust in them, and then to retain these customers at full scale and make it difficult for them to leave you. Okay? Make it so sticky. So that's what the whole business is all about. And as you can see on the right side, you're trying to reduce friction in the marketplace to get to that success to the customer. There's so many ways to get derailed in these major steps. Customers will go away. And on the other side, the customer is just trying to get to solve a problem, and they want to do it quickly within the budget available to them. So, okay, we're engineers, so I can talk about Newton. Newton said friction is a resistive force, right? And that's a good force in certain cases. Makes you walk, makes you do many things. But friction is bad in the sales pipeline or customer pipeline. Because every idea that is hard to understand by the customer is friction. Features that customers won't even bother to pay for. Inaccessible information, missing pieces of entire solution, so they don't understand where you fit in. Unresponsiveness, unattractive brand, So the question that they can't get a clear answer, what does it do for me? These answers can come from salespeople, can come from the website, come from digital content, but this is friction. And at any point, the customer is going to get off the bicycle and say, I'm not interested, because somebody else beat you to the punch. So what does reducing friction do? Lowers the cost of acquiring this customer. You get higher efficiency, faster time to market, greater demand, higher customer satisfaction, higher retention, all the good things. And you do that with the help of good marketing, sales, collateral, content. It all starts with positioning. It all starts with, of course, a good product. Without that, you cannot do that. But don't build features that people don't want to pay. Don't build features that people don't understand. Or if they don't understand, there's something wrong with the communication. Why did you build it? And then go back to product management. Why do you have this feature that people don't seem to understand? So it's not an engineering problem only, but it's a dialogue that has to happen in a vibrant company. These dialogues have to happen, and healthy dialogue, so that there's no contention between people. So role of sales, role of marketing in a sense is to help field sales, to effectively repeat the process of selling, train them, set policies, set programs for them. Role of sales is to manage and service the customer. Account management is one term used. And sales often sits on the boundary between which side are you on? Are you on the side of the customer, or are you on the side of the company? And it's a very unique tension that gets created between sales and marketing again. And they have to communicate, they have to collaborate, and they have to find a way to come to terms. And a good company will figure that out. Good CEO will make sure that there's no doubt in this matter. But sales and marketing have to understand each other very, very well. And they have to respect each other's opinion. But I think the opinion of the sales is often overlooked and underestimated. And a lot of salespeople just have that frustration that ultimately the customer's voice is not being heard. And they may be wrong, but it should be heard carefully. And then you have, of course, the CRM platforms to help keep everybody on the same page or track things, right? There's measurability that CRM can bring in. What's the total cost of acquiring a customer? You want to reduce that cost. What can we do about it? Number of prospects that turned into, customers, and the revenue from each customer's lifetime revenue. What will be the expected retention duration, and annual revenue? All of these things can be measured with CRM tools. So again, there I'm saying is, please don't use Excel. Please don't use handwritten notes, diaries, and things like that. Early on, use a CRM tool. Why repeat it? Why? It's all a good collection of information. It's all transparent. And some people would resist it, but then you have to insist on it and saying, no, we're based on standardized tools, because people may come and go, but the information should stay. Okay. I want to talk about digital marketing, because at some point, again, science here, that Archimedes said, give me a lever and I can move the world, right? And that's what leverage is. Digital marketing is a huge lever. Okay. The content, the SEO, PPC, all of these things are huge levers and modern levers, and you can't ignore it, of course. So you're going to be on the internet. My view is, just don't be on the internet and say, yeah, we did it. Freaking own the damn internet in that category of your business. That would be ultimately your objective. Can't do it overnight, but own it, so that there is a good base that you build on. And in digital marketing, you can build a bigger story, create thought leadership, tailor the message, tell the story better, tell the story louder. And all of this doesn't mean inauthentic. Don't lie, don't be inauthentic. But you know what I mean, and your marketing team can do it. Your agencies can do it for you, but your marketing teams can do it. And the important thing is that, in a sense of uniqueness, what you're trying to do is be able to use words like the, this, and words like the first in the market, the best in the market, the only product that can do this, right? Those kinds of terms tell the story better. Not a product, one of the, almost like. These are very negative and neutral terms. So it takes a massaging and wordsmithing, and it takes positioning, and it takes deliberation, but you have to be authentic. It's easy to write these things, but if you're not authentic, customers crave for honesty. They love complexity, but they crave for honesty. And if they find you as inauthentic, you lost them. So be careful. And digital is very dangerous. You can be caught in that trap. So tell the story louder. It means use all the channels available to you. LinkedIn, YouTube, partners, bloggers, Twitters, web presence, contributed articles, speeches, white papers. Find people to do this for you, ghostwrite for you, do all of this, because it is investing in your presence on the market. And it does make you look bigger than you are, yes, but be authentic. But it is designed to make your competition say, I don't understand how the hell they do all these things. And they're everywhere, right? And it's lead generation at the end. If you're doing this, it's lead generation. Tell the story better. I mean, there's nobody better than Steve Jobs who could tell stories, right? I wish you would take the time and just download when he introduced the iPod and then when he introduced the iPad, the phone and the iPad and iPod. These are amazing videos that are there for you to watch. They're 10, 12-minute videos, but it'll give you an idea that he reached a point where he could get free publicity by just getting to the point where he would talk about a product, right? That's nirvana. But you learn a lot by how he describes the products and how he says it and what he says. So how digital marketing really works is that it's persistent, it's consistent, it's recency, it's fresh, it's frequency, and it's authentic. Okay, so it creates this sense of fast, believable, and what was it? Reduces friction, and so on and so forth. So, and you can research and test the market, A/B testing, all of those things are available to you in the market by using digital marketing. So I'm a big fan of digital marketing because you can always ask the question, who, what, when, where, and why are the customers doing what they're doing? And the answer is you're able to fish where the fish are. You can get to the markets that you couldn't find otherwise. And fastest ways to establish credibility, good for research, make it possible for you to find, make it possible for them to find you, and reduces time to information. I'm almost coming to the close of my presentation here, but making, marketing, and selling the products are not the only thing. And I'm going to go through this fast, but the rule now in the industry is customer retention. What can you do for the customer as an advisor to them? Okay. That's the new growth engine, especially for renewable revenue models, which is the way things are going. Moves you from reactive to proactive mode. You don't react to the customer, but now you proactively become a trusted advisor to show them how they can succeed with your product. You're not bragging about your product, but you're trying to make them succeed. You're sharing best practices that other customers have used. You make it harder for them to leave you, but the point is that you are now really a trusted advisor and looking at it from their point of view, and you're oriented towards their sales. And it requires a lot of collaboration, but this is a new area that has come up called customer success. It's not sales, because sales is outbound and looking to sell more logos and get new business. Customer service is reactive, ready to pick up the phone. Customer success is proactive, to land and expand at the current customers with professional services, guidance, and things like that, advisory services. And marketing collaborates in all of this and creates special content for customer success because they give you a lot of stories, right? So customer success in action is now that customers buy, they get onboarded, but eventually there's value and ROI, expand and renew for them. That's the model. That's what VCs are looking for. That's what the stock market looks for, is renewable business. Because the alternative to that is churn. You're losing customers as you're adding new logos. Because in renewable models, customers can easily cut off the licensing next year. We bought 200 licenses, but we only use 50. We don't need more. You have to figure out why 200 needs to become 400, and that's land and grab. So in summary, what success looks like is a cohesive team that is unmatched in the industry, a product that fits the market and is easy to sell, loyal and expanding customers, recurring revenues with low customer churn, sustainable advantage, which means you know what the next step is going to be. You have the secret sauce in your company that is inimitable sauce. People don't understand, why are you so successful? It's a combination of things that make you inimitable. Okay. And you have access to venture capital. You have non-dilutive funding, which, I do a lot of that as well. And ultimately, you first-time entrepreneurs succeeded to become industry leaders. That's the journey of an entrepreneur. Nobody will stop you from starting the next company if you want to after this one. They'll run after you to give you more money if you pull off the first one. So that's what I would say. And I would say thank you on this behalf, but I hope I have left some time for Q&A, but I'm sorry if I took too much of the time. But go ahead, we can ask some questions. I'll try to answer them. I'm here to stay for as long as you want me to, Joseph.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you very much for that much information to share with the group. And we have a quick question actually about, can you give an example of a positioning from a famous company in the chat?
Example of well, certainly I think that, it's taking me a second, but, famous company positioning. I mean, if you look at the press release of any famous company, Salesforce, as an example, Cisco has many divisions, but Salesforce, if you look at about Salesforce at the bottom of the press release, a part of your positioning is stated there. But other examples could be, FedEx could say, our positioning is, if you absolutely need to get the product package out somewhere by tomorrow morning, FedEx is there for you. Okay. Tylenol can say, if you have a headache, we have 5 Tylenol products that can solve your pain. Domino can say, if you're hungry, we can deliver a pizza to you in 30 minutes. So these are the kind of positionings that eventually turn into jingles. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. But it required a lot of work to get to that positioning. Okay. Usually it's a paragraph or a line, meaning it says the following. We are in this business. We are the best in this business for this kind of reason, with this kind of value.
And I'd like to add on to a very important positioning or repositioning. The famous company, when Apple's first started, is called Apple's Computer Inc., right? Yeah. But when the revenue for the phone and the iPod business started overtaking the computer business, then they actually rebranded the company called Apple Inc. So it's not tied just to one product called computer, because when they first started, they were the first basically positioned as a home computer. An Apple computer, when they first launched, was supposed to be a computer for home.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Starbucks, you see their logo over the last 15 years. The word coffee and tea has disappeared. It's just the logo.
Okay. Any additional questions? I am checking the chat and also the Q&A. I haven't seen any. And one comment coming from Benjamin, and thank you for staying up. Benjamin actually joined from Singapore, which is very early or late hours for him, and he really appreciated the insight you provided, Prem. So he said, well worth him staying up to join the session live.
Oh, thank you, Benjamin. Thank you very much. That's a huge compliment.
Okay, so maybe I provide my question for you now in terms of because I work with many startup company, and typically tech startup companies are founded by technical people.
Joseph, you were cutting out. Joseph? Yeah.
But
Joseph, you were cutting
you're
out.
breaking up.
Started-
Yeah,
Yeah.
I noticed that. So my question is, now you usually tech startup founded by technical people. What's your recommendation for them to make sure that they incorporate marketing into their business strategy?
Well, hopefully I've convinced you that this talk is about the fact that technology alone will not succeed, marketing alone will not succeed. You do need that, and you must incorporate, and you must have a certain amount of humility about what you don't know in marketing. At the same time, hire a marketing expert that you're willing to work with and cooperate and collaborate with. But don't get a light marketing person, because the first marketing person has to be just as much a technologist, but just comes from a different angle to justify. And I would also say that rarely will a venture capitalist fund your company without a strong marketing person on your team with you at the time of pitching. So yes, CEO, CTO, and head of marketing become very important functions. So
Thank you.
Can't overlook it.
So another two questions actually from Paul. The first question is, do you have any recommendation for an affordable CRM, the customer relationship management software or platform? Because I guess Salesforce might be a little too expensive.
Yeah, right. Salesforce is expensive. Trial server units are not bad. You get 25 licenses and things like that. But at the end of the day, you can migrate from one to the other. But I would say HubSpot and even not Zoom. What is the other one called? Zoho. I use Zoho for my own business because I find it economical, $25, and I'm the only user of it. But HubSpot could be another one, and there are some other ones, lighter weight ones. But the point I'm trying to make about CRM is that it's real time, live, and on available to you to log in anytime, anywhere, and it is a repository of information. Whereas, spreadsheets can become dangerous and very difficult to manage or prioritize, and you can get away with that for a certain amount of time, for sure. We all do, and it's a good tool. But I would say it's just similar thing, which is make a small investment in that. It's like, do you have a website or not, and is your website SEO ready or not?
Yeah. So the second question also from Paul is that, do you have any recommendation for sources for volunteers or affordable work to hire for creation of an MVP?
No, that is not a volunteer activity. That is not a part-time activity. There are professionals who might help you create that, but that'll take a lot of diligence on their part to really embed themselves in other words, they will be consultants, but they'll be expensive, because such people are expensive in Silicon Valley, as you can imagine. But if you can't afford that kind of salary for an annual salary, you may end up getting that capability on an hourly basis for 4 or 5 months, but it'll be half the salary of a year for a consultant to do that work. Because again, this is very rigorous work, and it has to be domain specific.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? What are the benefits of CRM?
Well, like I said, I think there are initially the CRM benefits are that it's accountable, it's traceable, it's one place where all the information is collected. It also manages your calendar to some extent, the next activities, it reminders, and it keeps all the conversations in one place. Slack can do that for you as well. But I think Slack and CRM integrations are important in that regard. But the advantage of CRM is what it stands for, customer relationship management. So it has built-in tools to walk you through the various stages and remind you where you are in a pipeline and when to send the lead, when the lead is qualified and it goes into the hands of salespeople, when the lead comes back. You can measure things like success and all that. So it's less, what do you call it? It's not arbitrary, it's real, you can measure the data. It's objective, it's not subjective.
Because typically, the CRM is more than just a database of customer. It actually has workflow from the initial contact.
Yeah, I was looking for that word. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're right. It gives you a workflow.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah.
So the question was that she's planning to sell women products online. So even for online business, I think you still need to have, actually, as a matter of fact, especially with online service, you need to have more of a history of how your interaction works with the customer or potential customer. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you can recall that information quickly if you're online with somebody talking, and you can quickly see past conversations you've had. I use that quite a bit.
So we're coming past 1:30, but Prem is very nice. He's going to stay on as long as people have additional questions. So please post your question, or you can unmute yourself. I hope you can actually. Sorry if you have anybody still online still have questions, feel free to post it on the chat. How do you? Okay, how do you spell those CRM company? So Zoho is ZOHO.com, and HubSpot is HUBSPOT.com.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I think both Prem and I share our contact information. So if people have additional questions after our webinar, we welcome you to send us email for follow-up. If there are no more questions, I'll let people get back to their normal work. And let me see this one. I'll just thank you for the presentation. So I guess there are no more questions. So at this point, so I'd like to wrap up our meeting, and don't have a speaker detail lined up yet at this point. But if since you subscribed, I think through the Eventbrite, we will actually capture your email address with your permission to subscribe to our email. So we'll be first sending out the email, then in about 3 days that we have posted the presentation on our StartupSec website, and also the detailed information when and who our next speaker will be in September. So again, thank you very much for the people attending, and thank you, Prem, our speaker, for spending valuable time and dispensing all these years experience in such a short amount of time. And enjoy the rest of the day for everyone else. Thanks again for everyone attending.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Prem. Thank you
Yes.
to all attendees.
Thank you, Rio. Thank you, Rio, for supporting this. I didn't realize you're still online. Okay.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye for now. Everyone stay safe, and we appreciate you attending. Hey.